This title, this release, I've been waiting for a long time for this release. Diablo, the board game. If you've been following my channel for any amount of time, pushing up to the Board Gaming Tactica playlist, there's this idea of where is the Diablo, the board game? It's a license to print money. It's a way to just massively expand a really, really interesting and good title. If you could replicate, if you could capture that experience, if you could take that digital Diablo experience and convert it to analog, wow, I've been waiting for that. So now we're starting to get some rumors. We're starting to get some sneak peeks. There's a little bit of stuff out there, 2025 for the release. I've got a couple of questions, and what I would think would work really well for a Diablo board game. And the one thing that, as a board gaming enthusiast and a miniature wargaming enthusiast, I'm a little bit concerned about, or I'm a little bit worried about if they take it in this direction, and I think they will. So my first question is, are we talking about, and I know there's going to be a sidebar complementary role-playing game. We're going to push that aside. Apparently, there's the board game and the role-playing game. They share similar components. There's crossover. You can utilize both of them. We'll put that aside for a moment. Dangerous place to be as a completionist with poor impulse control, but we're just looking at the board game for the moment. Is this going to kind of be a overworld board game where my hero is really a stat block and I'm adventuring from point to point and I'm engaging cards, kind of like they did with Skyrim, the board game, where you've got the map of Skyrim, and yes, you've got dungeons, yes, you've got quests, yes, you've got stuff, but it's not individual maps. It's a flavor card, or it's a point on the map. So are we talking about Diablo the adventure type game, or are we talking about like a Diablo dungeon crawler type game? Not necessarily set in a dungeon, because there are dungeons, but there's other areas where there will be a map and there will be enemies that spawn, hordes, maybe kind of like Zombicide Black Plague, and there'll be some sort of boss monster. Are they going to be dropping loot? So that's my first question. Is I think it should focus on the core Diablo mechanics. Yes, there's Sanctuary. Yes, there's different parts. Yes, there's maps. But focus on one area. Bring it down to that kind of fast play tactical miniatures game where we're going up against hordes and hordes of monsters, maybe some named monsters that randomly spawn, and dropping loot. So within that, being miniature based, you're going to need a lot of miniatures. You're going to need some heroes. Of course, we're going to sell you X packs and expansions for the heroes and for the monsters. We'll look at that in a moment. They need to replicate the crafting and the loot system. Now, how are they going to do that? The easiest way, of course, would be just cards. Have different cards and have it randomly drop, maybe based on the challenge rating or based on the level of your character. You kill this mob, draw a random card, and see what that happens. But the thing here, though, is interesting. How big is that deck going to be? If you've played Diablo, you know that the monsters and the mobs that you fight, they drop a lot of worthless gear. Stuff that isn't even, we're not talking about like low-tier items, just stuff that's common items or stuff that you're just going to sell or break down for components. That's fine in a digital format, but in an analog format, how many cards are we going to have for gear? 100, 200, 300? And if they're just absolutely trash, worthless, that doesn't translate over well. So I'm going to need some gear that is effective across multiple classes. Might not be the best, but I'm constantly upgrading or constantly using it. So I think they're going to have to really curate that deck building and that gear. Of course, we'll have skill trees. We'll have that stuff with experience. Maybe there'll be a narrative. I think they need two things here. And I know right now everything's about campaign in the board game, and certainly there should be a campaign, but there should also just be a hack and slash, wander around and see what happens. I think in terms of replicating the experience, I think the more focused they get and the more they can pack into a box. So this now leads to the expansions and what I'm a little bit worried about. Let's say the core box is Sanctuary, and it's going to revolve around that famous town and the woods that surround it. Have those core monsters in that box of miniatures be what you would encounter there. Have the character classes geared to that. Have the loot drops geared to that. Then with expansions, sell the other areas of Sanctuary. Sell me the cathedral. Sell me the sands and the wastelands and the desert. Sell me one of the cities. So now you're literally expanding your boxes out. Give me monster packs, additional monster packs that I can bring these mobs over, not only in the core Sanctuary box, but also in other boxes. Give me loot drop cards where I've got the core pack in for the equipment and the loot drops, but maybe it's a pack that just here's an extra 50 cards, here's an extra 100 cards to move in. You could replicate that experience very, very well. The challenge, the issue, what I'm wondering about is, it's one thing to be a cash grab, but how much of a cash grab? If you're going to make this crippleware where you give me the Sanctuary box for whatever, 100 USD buy-in, whatever that's going to be, 80 USD buy-in retail. But now then I've got to buy 3, 4, 5, 6 other boxes. I've got to buy X packs. I've got to buy the character packs. I've got to buy the monster packs. I've got to buy multiple loot packs. All of a sudden, not only is that buy-in massive to replicate the digital experience from the analog, but you're really getting into setup, breakdown, transportation, physical aspects of it. A great example of that would be Hero Quest. I love playing Hero Quest core. I love the expansions. Once you take the core Hero Quest, and then you add in Hero Quest, the classic dungeon crawler, the current incarnation of it, you take that core, you add in one of the expansions that you need the core to play, you then add the different character classes, you then add in some different monsters. It's a great experience, but it's now taken 30, 40 minutes to set up, 30, 40 minutes to pack down. And the dynamic aspect of Diablo digital is the computer, the console, the phone, whatever it's going to be, the tablet, does all that for you. So that's kind of my concern, where if they make it essentially DLC pay to play, where you've got to buy all these X packs, cards, boxes, expansions, here's season 1, here's season 2, here's season 3, physically integrating that and setting that up, it breaks down really, really fast. And it also makes it a little bit hard to play if you don't have those resources to jump in and go, all the expansions, everything at once. So on the one hand, I'm really, really excited. I've spent so many hours Diablo, playing it, enjoying it, farming it. I mean, I've got the original OG Barbarian kit from Diablo 2 where I've got Topaz everything, just Topaz bling everywhere, Magic Find plus 800, still running around trying to farm sets, trying to complete everything, trying to do everything. That excitement, if you can replicate that with a storyline in a board gaming experience, I would really, 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 that would be amazing. But there is a chance that this really kind of goes crazy and just becomes like Diablo Mobile, DLC, download everything, pay for everything. That doesn't quite translate over as well from digital to analog, in my opinion. So as a fellow Diablo fan, as a board gaming enthusiast, as a wargaming enthusiast, as a gamer, what are your thoughts? 2025 is around the corner, and I'm sure we'll find out more, but your thoughts on taking this icon, this classic Diablo, and turning it into analog.